So, have you made any good decisions lately? It's not so easy to know, is it? If you did a good decision, how do you know that it was a good one? Did it feel right? Can you give us excellent reasons for the decision? Are you happy about the outcome? Whether and how we can know that a decision is a good one is what I want to talk about today. But in order to do so, I think we have to start with an example, with a decision to start the discussion with. And I'm going to take the opportunity to use one of my favorite decisions. It's courtesy of the Cambridge University Library, who has kindly enough digitalized and made pictures of almost every note that Charles Darwin ever scribbled down. And here's one particularly nice note. It's written in 1838, just a few weeks before he proposed to his cousin. And the two headers here, it's a bit hard to read, but on the left you see the question, arguments for marriage, and on the right you instead see arguments against marriage. Now, it's a bit hard to read, and I won't read it all out to you, but among the arguments for marriage, we find things such as companion and friend in old age, who will feel interested in one, object to be beloved and played with, better than a dog, anyhow. On the side with arguments against marriage, we instead find things such as freedom to go where one liked, choice of society and little of it, conversation of clever men at clubs, not forced to visit relatives and to bend in every trifle. Now, as you may see at the end of this note, his conclusion was to marry. It says, marry, 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 QED. And I actually particularly like his last reason for reaching this conclusion, where he says, my God, it's intolerable to think of spending one's whole life like a neuter bee, working, 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 and nothing after all. No, no, won't do. So he got married. And the few autobiographies I've read about Darwin indicate that the marriage was happy, I guess. We can't ask him anymore. Does that mean that this was a good decision? It's kind of hard to say, isn't it? In order to truly evaluate this decision, it seems as if we would have to know what would have happened if he had not married his cousin. What if he had married someone else? What if he had refrained from marriage and written 5 other books that revolutionized natural science? What if he all of a sudden changed a career and became something that we never heard of? We don't know what would have happened had he not married Emma Wedgwood. So how do we know that the decision he made was a good one? I'm not really sure it's so easy to answer that question, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Regardless of this difficulty, there you go, there's a large amount of books and papers and internet classes and help yourself tapes and you name it, telling us what good decisions are and how to make them. Parts of this research is excellent. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this, but an interesting question to ask is, of course, how do they know what a good decision is? How can they evaluate what good decision making is? And here, there seems to be 2 different types of answers to this question. One answer comes from what I will call the prohibitory camp, for people that are very cautious. And they will tell us that good decisions are decisions that help us avoid specific pitfalls that are particularly bad for us. The other group of people, I will say, are part of the success-oriented view towards decision-making. And they say something like, well, use the type of decision style that generally will get you what you want. So these are 2 quite different approaches to how good decisions should be made. Now, when it comes to the precautionary or prohibitory camp, the people who tell us that good decision-making is basically about trying to avoid certain very severe pitfalls, we get a very structured and very well worked through idea of how you should proceed in your decision making in order to avoid certain really dangerous things. So what are these things that we should be so scared of? The most famous one is something that is usually called a money pump, but I will translate that to a porcelain pump in my example, since we are, after all, in the business of homemaking in this talk, it seems. So